welcome to another episode of The Sage and the Seeker. Here, where we hold space for deep conversations and soulful insights and the kind of wisdom to help you find your way home. And I'm your host, Antonia Dax, and I have my partner Tsung with me.
Hello.
And and I'm so grateful that you're here and we're together again for another podcast. It's always exciting to see what kind of insights we come up with, where our conversation takes us. So today, if you're looking for some inspiration or some kind of connection or even maybe some guidance, you're in the right place. And we have an interesting topic today, which sort of came just kind of came out of the blue. And it is based on a work by Nancy Levin, who has formulated this, what she calls the transformation equation. And it is a formula. And it is, but don't worry, because it's not mathematical. So it is change equals vision plus choice plus action. And it's those three elements that we are going to take a look at today and to see how these three things actually can bring about real transformation, lasting change in your life.
Exciting.
So, what do you what
Yeah, I said
what
exciting.
yeah, what do you think about? Have you heard of this before, this equation?
I haven't heard of this particular one, but I have seen, some similar construct, and
Mhm.
some of them are a little bit more nuanced. I've seen the 4 step, 5 step, 6 step, 7 step. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's I think different people probably have different structure um tying into it. But overall, I feel it definitely needs to have a like an inspiration, vision as a start, and then you dive into what needs to be done, what are the gaps, and then you do
Hmm.
actual work, and then during the work process, you find more meanings. And then once the meanings are achieved, typically you will see tangible changes and result of transformation.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
I've seen similar things. So I'm very curious how it will show up in this particular
Yeah,
framework.
yeah. And I think it's key that we recognize that it takes all three of these things to
Hmm.
actually have change happen.
Hmm.
And like you can't just have a great vision for something
Yeah.
and then never do anything about it, right? Then you're going to be stuck and nothing's going to change, even though you're like, well, I know what I want. Well, it's not enough, right? So we need each one of these things working together.
Hmm.
And I like how you said that it also sort of, once you start doing it, you get a clearer vision and it sort of feeds back into itself, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at them. Let's look at them one at a time. It does kind of start with vision, doesn't it? Maybe that's where we should start.
Let's start. Without the vision, there any action is meaningless.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to see how you want your life to change. But I think we often do it in the sort of a backwards way. That's not really helpful. Like we know what we don't want,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
We're so easy to, you so often you ask somebody, well, how do you want to change? Well, I don't want this and I don't want that and I don't want, right? And I really don't like this and I don't like that. And that's just looking at the negative side of things and reinforcing all the things you don't want, right? So I think maybe we could look at as part of this, looking at the positive statements of stating what you do want.
Hmm.
And rather than looking at what you need to get rid of, to look at what you need, what you would like to have more of.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think there are many frameworks out there to help you to build your vision, right? Everyone heard of vision board, and
Um,
in coaching, there are many different systems that can help you develop that vision. Um, but I have a very simple exercise. Basically, you look at the world and see what inspire you, uh, whether it's a person, a concept, an event, or something else. You just look into things that inspires you because what you find inspirational it's the potential you see in other people that also exists in you.
Yeah.
And then that potential is something to, you can sit with yourself in and, you know, maybe develop some visions around your potential.
Hmm. Yeah. I like to think about what lights me up
Hmm.
because this concept of what lights you up is like such a visceral, personal thing, right?
Hmm.
That sometimes you can't even put words to it.
Hmm.
But you know what lights you up. You know when you get that feeling like, oh, this is exciting, or I love this, or oh, this is really me, right? We know when we feel that way, but we don't tend to apply that to thinking about what we want for our lives. I don't know why. Maybe we just think that life is just meant to be a slog. You know, aren't we just meant to slog through life? It's supposed to be hard. I don't think so. I mean, it can be if you make it that way, but I think if we start looking at it from what really lights you up and what turns you on, that's a much more effective way. That's going to make a change, right? To look ahead at that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you mentioned vision boards. What do you think about vision boards?
Well, actually, I just built a vision board last weekend, so
Or did you?
um, I think it is helpful for you to find an anchor, basically, of something that's going on in your mind into something that's more tangible. When you write it down, when you are presenting your vision, then your brain starts to like formulate all kinds of ways that it can help you to achieve that vision. So I think anything that can help you to really anchor your thoughts into something that's tangible is extremely helpful as a start. Um, and obviously there are many ways you can build it. And I
Yeah.
recently learned a way to build it, which I found it helpful if you just happen to be someone who's not super creative and you need some kind of external structure that help you. So this method is basically using some kind of in coaching we call it photographic coaching. Basically, they use
Mhm.
cards with photographies of different concepts
Cards.
of human, yes, to
Okay.
provoke you to reflect and to find the inspiration. So you can think of it if you are familiar with tarot card, oracle card. It's very, very similar, but it's more like specially designed for coaching. Um, and then you use those cards as a prompt uh, to enter a more deeper state of your mind, what you really need and want.
Are
And
you making your own cards or these are the ones that you buy?
these are cards that's designed specifically for coaching. It's
Okay.
a system.
Okay.
It's a system. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, so I found that extremely helpful for people who might not be that creative and they need some help, external help to land onto some structure to help them.
Hmm. Hmm. I like that idea. Yeah. And I think it's really important with any kind of vision board idea that you use it frequently, right? It's got to be like throughout the day. You have to be constantly, I think, reminding yourself and bringing your mind and your thoughts back to those choices that you have made
Yeah.
for yourself. Because otherwise, if you just do it and then you stick it in a corner or something, it's like, I don't think it's very effective.
Mm.
Have you heard of mind movies? I think it's called mind movies.
No, tell me
It's
more.
a video version
Hmm.
of a vision board.
Hmm.
And I did it a couple of times. I forget the woman who created this thing, but she often does a free like a free little seminar or whatever where you can learn about it and get the information to do it. But it creates a sort of a slideshow presentation set to music and where you choose to have, whatever pictures or drawings or whatever as part of your slideshow. And you can keep it on your phone that way and you can like look at it all the time, right? It's like there it is. And it's got this emotion with it because of the music. And you know, that's pretty effective too, I think. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know that it works for everybody.
Yeah, because I think there are I shouldn't categorize people like this, but based on my observation, I mean, there are probably two typical type of way of thinking things.
Mm,
Some people are better at organizing, meaning you started from lots of information, unorganized, unstructured, and you know, based on the pieces here and there, you started to summarize, oh yeah, this is true to me, this is less true. So you started from lots of information and that you filter and select and organize. And then I think there are other people who are just gifted in just creating a structure of their own. So they can create something out of nowhere. So
mm,
I personally feel you need to figure out what kind of creativity do you have? Do you tend to create a concept from nowhere, or do you tend to needing some kind of prompt or information
right, right,
help you
right, right.
organize those thoughts?
Yeah,
There's no good and bad. It's just different.
yeah.
So different
Whatever works for you.
works
And
differently.
I think, yeah, and I think there's a, I think that it's worth it to really learn how to do it right because I think the tendency is for people to go, oh, I know what I want. I want to have,
Mhm.
the latest sports car or this big house with a pool, but they lose the essence of why they want those things. It's kind of what we talked about
Yeah.
in our other session, um, in our other podcast. That was like, you have to know the essence of what you want. You have to feel it. You have to understand why it is that you want something, because otherwise it's just a thing. It's just another thing, and it's not going to change your life, right? You might get that new car, but is it really going to change your life? Is it going to change how you feel about yourself or the world? Probably not. Maybe for a week or two, right?
I think you're tapping into value. And I think in our first episode we called it North Star. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think your value, your North Star should stay relatively stable throughout your life. That is something that you chase after. Um, and then things like houses or sports cars or whatever, that you might, attracted to, find it attractive. It is just one symbol for the value that you
Mm-hmm.
um really want.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so
So
I
it's not the
agree.
symbol that we're going after with a really effective vision board.
Yeah,
It's the value,
exactly.
right?
Start with the
Yeah.
value for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in a similar way, we have to pay attention to the language that we use,
Mhm,
because language is really, I think, key for understanding our vision and for setting a clear vision
mhm,
as well. So to move away from vision boards into more, maybe even getting into like intentions.
mhm,
Um, but the I think that language specifically is so important that we don't say what you don't want, but what you do want. I think that's a big thing. What is it you do want? And
mhm,
catch it, pay attention. I would just challenge everybody to pay attention. When you're thinking you would like something to be different, your first thought is going to be what you don't want.
mhm,
That's the way our minds want to go. And
mhm.
I want you to challenge you to catch that and turn it around into what do I want?
Yeah. Mhm,
Right? Like you'd say, oh, my dinner is cold. Why is my dinner cold? Instead, you could say, well, I really prefer to have a hot dinner, because it's like, then you can say, well, I just need to go and heat it up, whatever, right? Rather than sitting complaining about it, it's proactive. And
mhm,
that is that proactivity, I think, that leads towards change.
mhm.
So
And
watching your language.
also I will dive a little bit deeper into this. I think
Okay.
it's not only that we should look at what we want. I think it's even more important to look into what we need. So I'm talking about some subtle difference between your conscious mind's wants and your subconscious mind's needs.
Mm,
You might be surprised. A lot of times, your conscious mind and subconscious mind are seeking for very different things. And it is when you really, combine tap into the deeper part of your mind, you get to know like what is it that you truly desire? What is it? That is your
Yeah.
true motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? That leads perfectly into the next part. So we've looked at vision, which is the first part of the formula for true change.
Mhm,
So we have to add to vision, we have to add choice.
mhm,
And I say it led perfectly into it because I think there's a big difference between saying I want something or I need something.
mhm,
And there's also a big difference to saying I choose something
mhm,
and I intend something.
mhm.
And you know what? Let's do like a 1 minute little activity right here because I think this is kind of a powerful one. People don't realize if you could think of something that you want, whatever it is, I want to lose weight, I want a new car, I want a I don't know, vacation this summer, whatever it is. Think of something that you want and say to yourself, I want fill in the blank. And how does that feel? Then you say, I need. Same thing. I need the new car. I need the vacation, whatever it is. How does that feel? Say it to yourself, or you can say it out loud.
Mhm,
It's a different feeling, isn't it? I
mhm,
want and I need.
mhm,
And I'll say the same thing again, but say I choose.
mhm,
That's a different feeling again, isn't it? To choose something is so different from needing it or wanting it.
mhm.
Now we're getting, I think, closer to making change, right? When you guys say I choose it. And then let's take it one more level and say I intend fill in the blank.
Mhm.
So if I do it with a vacation, if I say I want a vacation, it means I don't have a vacation, right? There's this negative kind of blah about it. Say I need a vacation, then it's like it's an intensity. It's like I got, there's definitely more intense about it. If I say I choose a vacation, now I've been doing something actively towards that. Just in an attitude, it's a very subtle energy shift. And if I say I intend to have a vacation, then it's like I'm going to make it happen, right? It's a whole different flow of energy with each of those words. So I think that's a good challenge for all of us to always kind of catch ourselves when we say I want or I need, and to shift it up into I choose or I intend.
I think you should also change the object in each of the sentence because do you really need a car or do you want a car? Or do you intend to get a car? I don't think the intention is to get a car. The intention probably is to get recognition, to get
Mm-hmm.
sense of joy.
Mm-hmm.
It is not.
Yeah, I think it's a great exercise because it does help you do that too, right? It helps you to recognize, is this really the right thing that I should be wanting?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
is this really right for me?
Mhm.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Okay, so I think intending is the ultimate goal, right? Because intending puts you in a place where, um, well, I think choosing puts you in a place where there's possibility, right? If you can make that choice, then it's possible for you to have it. But intending puts you in this place where there's action, there's a commitment somehow to actually achieving what it is that you're desiring.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that's powerful. I think that's like bringing out your own personal power when you do that.
Mhm. Yeah, setting up the right intention definitely is empowering, and even making the choice without being driven by fear, um,
Mm,
it's also equally important. So I think when you shift from being fear driven or intention driven, you kind of automatically shift your mindset um, from a survival mode into a mode of expansion, a mode
yeah.
of abundance. So yeah, just pay attention to underlying attention, uh, to the underlying motivation of your choices. Is it based on fear? Is it based on love?
Mhm.
Is on something that's true to yourself, or is it based on peer pressure or something that you learned that no longer serves you? So your motivation is very important in
Mhm.
deciding what
Yeah,
choice will be effective.
yeah, and being, I think, not just from fear, but from a place we don't realize that we're doing it, but coming from a place of lack,
Hmm.
right? Which is kind of fear centered.
Yeah. Hmm.
But this idea that if you want something, it means you don't have it.
Hmm.
And that is a really subtle yet powerful motivation. And you don't realize you're doing it, but this is like, oh, I really want it so bad. I want it so bad. It's wishful thinking and this needing, I've got to have it, right? Is actually working, I think, is working against you, making the changes towards getting what it is that you do want, that you really do need, that you really is going to serve you, because you're coming from that subconscious place of lack,
Hmm.
um, that it sort of thwarts your ability to actually make the positive changes that you need to make. So I
Hmm.
think language is really important in this choice making
Hmm.
stage of
I
this.
think language is the signal you give to your brain, right?
Yeah,
Are you giving a
yeah,
signal of love or are you giving a signal of fear? That's important.
yeah, yeah. There's a quote I ran across today, that I wrote down a long time ago, and I haven't looked at it in a long time, but it's by Neil Donald Walsh. It's from the book Conversations with God, the first one. And he says, a life lived by choice is a life of conscious action. A life lived by chance is a life of unconscious reaction.
I don't know. Maybe there are nuances to the language being used, but I do want to point out that there is also danger to think that we can control everything. There are
Mm,
always things that's by chance. Um, but that's okay because randomness is part of, you know, the law of the universe. And but it doesn't
I
mean
think he
that
means
you
it kind
should
of in a more of a,
organize your action around your intention. But it means that, you should have a level of flexibility and acceptance of the randomness nature of the universe.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that I don't think that's what he meant here though. I think if you look at it the other way, like if you live a life of unconscious reaction,
Hmm.
you're living a life of chance.
Hmm.
It means you're not making a choice.
I
You're
understand, but
just
what I'm trying to
reacting.
say is, even if you're consciously making a choice, there are still chances. So
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
not, I'm a
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
teacher.
yeah.
I mean, I love
Yeah.
talking about chances and everything is
Yeah.
probability.
And actually, this is a perfect place to segue into the next step,
Hmm.
because it is about action
Hmm.
and interacting with
Hmm.
our world and our life and the people in it in order to bring about the change.
Hmm.
So we've looked at having a vision, what lights you up, using vision boards or other things like that, watching your language. We've looked at choice,
Hmm.
and again, watching your language here, and making conscious choices about what will serve you,
Hmm.
coming from a place of, what words did you use? You said not fear, but what words you use? I'm trying to repeat your words. I don't remember, but coming from a place of love and support and opportunity
Hmm.
and possibility. And now the third part of the equation that we have to add to the first two is action. And I do think what your point makes perfect sense here, that we have to focus on the things that we can change.
Hmm.
And because so much of what happens in this world is not our choice and we don't have control over it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and in my view, I feel choices actually include action. Includes how you think, how you feel, and obviously how you act. So I don't particularly see action being separated from choice, and I think
Mm.
action is just a
A choice
natural,
is a type of action
yeah,
for sure, but
extension.
it's an internal one.
No, I don't think so. You can choose your
You
action.
don't think so?
Mhm. You can choose your action. That's choices. Mhm.
Yeah, but you can choose to do something and then not do it.
But you can also choose from point doing A versus doing B. I think it's the choice, it's embedded into action. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't know. I think I have to
I
disagree
think
with
we
that.
get into the nuances of wording.
Yeah, well, if we're going from like the idea that we have to have a vision and an understanding,
Hmm.
that is a sort of a mental, spiritual kind of a driven thing. And when the choice is more of that um an internal decision, right? It's like a decision for yourself that you're making. It hasn't actually, it's an action unto itself, but it doesn't actually make a difference in the world until you do something about it, right? You
It's like
have to do
doing
something
a
about it.
choice.
It's what?
I said deciding what to do is also a choice. Yeah, I think it's we probably got sidetracked a little bit because
Yeah,
I fundamentally I think we are talking about the same thing. Um,
yeah.
but
I think
found
at
this,
this level, it's about taking steps towards
yeah.
making your choices become reality.
So in
Maybe that's a better way of saying it.
tradition, I learned everything is choices, and you can even say that the purpose of life is to learn how to choose and choose how to learn. Um,
Mm,
so in a way, you can say even your vision, your decision, your feelings, your actions, they're all choices. So I'm more
they
speaking
are.
from that perspective.
Hmm, hmm.
And we learn from choices and consequences. And I think in action, they're both actions, right? And
Yeah.
I think the important thing is you make the choice, or you don't make the choice, and then you learn from the consequence.
But you have to take action on it before there are any consequences, really, because if you say in practical matters, right? Say you you decide that you need to lose 10 pounds,
Hmm.
for example. You can make that decision and then not change your eating habits, not exercise, not do anything differently at all. And
Yeah.
you're never going to lose those 10
I don't think you
pounds.
can decide you you get the outcome unless you take the action. So I guess
Yeah,
we just have a different understanding of
yeah, yeah,
yeah, what it
yeah.
is.
So I
I
think,
think I understand you. You think choices is more internal, but what I'm trying to say is I feel everything is choices,
no,
including.
I agree there. It's an internal action, but it doesn't necessarily affect the external world.
Mhm.
It doesn't manifest in your life in obvious ways. So, it can change the energy of things. It can change your attitude about things,
Mhm.
which can, in their own way, change things. But in the end, we have to do something, right? If we just sit and dream all day and don't ever leave our bedrooms, it's nothing is really going to change in our lives, right?
The choice.
It's a choice. Yeah, it's a choice. But if we're dreaming that we want to go traveling, but we never walk out of our bedroom, that dream is never going to come true.
I don't call it a choice. They choose to not work on it. So
Yeah, that's why we have all three of these have to work together,
yeah,
right? You have to have the vision, you have to make the choice, you have to take action.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I was just talking to one of my clients uh, about vicious circles.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with that? What a vicious circle is, or a vicious cycle? Some people say.
There are many ways to look into it. Actually, in my training today, they talked about how you act from fear and then you start to react and then you see reflection of the
Hmm.
outcome and then you start to
It
fear.
makes you more fearful.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And I think it fits with this too, right? If you're going to take action, oftentimes change requires you to step out of your comfort zone and to do something that's maybe unusual for you to really bring some kind of lasting positive change in your life. You've got to do something different, or things are just keep being the same, right?
mhm.
And
Well,
and
I personally feel Hmm. It's funny you mentioned this because I do think people are different. I actually noticed there are people who only take action as a way to escape, really think
Mhm,
about if the action
mhm,
makes sense.
mhm.
I think different people have different tendency. It is very possible that our audience maybe tend to be more in that mental world and think a lot before taking action. But there are definitely people in this world who takes action without thinking much, and that's
Absolutely.
equally harmful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think again, that's why like all three steps have to be there. You've got to have a vision that's a clear vision, it's a pure vision.
Mhm.
Like you said, the North Star
Yeah,
driven vision.
yeah,
And then to make a choice about that. Because otherwise, if you're just acting to do, then yeah, it could be as escapism. It could be
yeah.
to appear to be productive.
Mhm.
And it could all be just smoke and mirrors and
Yeah,
not really create a lasting change. Yeah, it's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think I heard from someone that workaholism actually can be an addiction because you don't
Hmm.
know when your life will be stop when you stop working. So yeah, I think it would be good to always have the balance of um mind, body, and spirit.
I love how you say that because that leads into that last part, actually. Um, but I do want to say one more thing before we go there.
Mhm.
Um, the the Serenity Prayer came to mind when I was thinking about this. What can we change in our lives? What when we take action, how do we choose what to try to change, right? And the Serenity Prayer came up because it's the perfect, I think, the perfect little sort of mantra to remind us all. So if in case you don't know it or you'd like to hear it again, here it is. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change,
Mhm.
courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's a nice reminder and a nice little mantra when we are taking action to remember that there's a lot of this world that we cannot change and to help us focus on those things that we can and to really make a difference there.
absolutely. It's all that matters.
Yeah. 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 So you mentioned, so okay, those are the three parts.
Mhm.
We have vision, we have choice, we have action. And we add those vision plus choice plus action, it's supposed to equal transformational change. So you mentioned that we need to, what did you say? Focus that change on spirit, mind,
Audience.
and body.
Mhm.
I would add a fourth one to that and say heart
Mm.
as well.
Heart should be there too. How can I forget about the heart?
Yeah, yeah. And they're all connected. They all work together.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think that if we think about those four things maybe and apply our equation to each one,
Hmm.
that might be a way of looking at things. Like, what is my vision for my body?
Hmm.
What do I choose for my body?
Hmm.
What can I action can I take to help my body? And
Hmm.
do the same for your mind and for your heart and for your spirit. I think that could be a very healthy way
Hmm.
of making positive transformational change.
Hmm. Yes. Or the other way to think about it is you use the different parts to, work on different process. Maybe your mind and heart works more on the vision, and your including your spirit, I guess. And choices maybe is more of an intellectual function, and then
Mm,
taking action is the function of the body.
mhm. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, how we can focus on each of our four aspects like that individually,
Mhm.
and yet they all are part of one interlocking, interconnected system that's constantly flowing from one to the next and influencing
Mhm.
each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Our emotions, for example, are such a powerful driving force, so connected to our thoughts in our mind,
Mhm.
right? And those thoughts and mind connected with the emotions can affect how we feel physically and the things that we do physically.
Mhm.
Right? It's all just so interconnected. And yet we can work on each one individually to improve and to bring real transformational change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I would say, hmm, when you try to overextend one part of yours, it can easily throw you off the balance, and balance is very important. It's always important to, you know, do the work and then get some rest. So I
Hmm.
applies to every body, soul, mind, and heart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a process
Mhm.
for sure. Any kind of change is a process. And, um, I don't know about you, but there have been many times in my journey where I'm like, can it just all just happen? Right? Like, just let it just come on, just let me be just like, it happens to some people that way, but I think it's pretty rare, right? Where you just like have this enlightening experience and you see everything, right? It's like, this is what I need to do. Yeah. Right. But I don't think that's the way it is for most people. Um, and and so I think it's about just baby steps, even, right? Just these tiny little movements to changing our thoughts, to changing our vision for our lives, changing our decisions that we make, taking actions, just these little things, these little changes. And if you continue with the little changes, they will move you forward, right? And little by little, these little things tend to add up. And over time, it's sort of like exponential, I think, right? Because if you are working on every part of you, your heart, your mind, your spirit, your body, they start working together. And it becomes this exponential change that all those little efforts that you make really start to show up in your life as, wow, things have changed. And you can look back and go, oh, well, how did that happen? Right? It was no one big effort. You don't have to like make some giant leap. Usually it's just little things that really add up over time.
Yeah, consistency is always appreciated. And
Yeah.
I will also add that I think any kind of evolution is not one-dimensional. It kind of goes in circles or rather spirals
Spirals. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
let's say you have a vision, you made your decision, and then you take your action, and then the outcome will inform you to reflect on your vision and the way you do your choices. And then you start thinking, yeah, maybe I can, correct my course a little bit. Maybe I can have a more effective action. So
Mhm.
don't think of anything as a one-dimensional, one-directional
Yeah.
way of evolution. You always mm,
It's
have these
expansive.
three elements going on in your
Hmm. Yeah. It's very expansive.
Mhm.
Great. All right. So I think we've covered the transformation equation.
Mhm.
Transformation equals vision plus choice plus action.
Mhm.
So, any last minute thoughts on that?
Um, I think as you say before, it takes time and you need patience to work on a long-lasting transformation. Um, I know a lot of coaches put a time-bonded goal in their coaching practice, but personally, I felt you should give yourself the time and space and patience, most importantly, to achieve your vision. And sometimes when you restrict yourself too much, whether it's in the vision you try to achieve or the time frame you're trying to achieving it, you might be taking action to, to make up for the lack of expensiveness in your action and goals.
Yeah. I think it's important to always have compassion for yourself
Hmm.
and trust that your efforts, your intentions, your actions are making a difference. And there's no timetable, there's no right or wrong. It's a process.
Yeah.
And and you have to always feel good about that,
Hmm.
that it's a process. Even when things seem to be not moving the way you thought. Like you said, it's a spiral. And that means that sometimes it looks like you're going backwards, but you're actually moving up while you're going backwards. So things you might have to revisit things sometimes, but
Hmm.
I think it's that trusting in yourself that things are changing for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah. We are becoming.
Well, I hope, yeah,
I
we
said we're
good?
coming.
Yeah. I hope that there was something here that you found useful today.
Hmm.
Maybe you can start to think about how you can envision a new life for yourself and make better choices and take better actions, even if they're little tiny ones that will actually bring some transformational change
Hmm.
into your life. And so, with that, I'm going to say thank you for being with us on another episode of The Sage and the Seeker.
Hmm.
We will be uploading new videos every week. So join us again next week. And please leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions on the podcast. And if you have questions for either one of us, please post them down below. If you'd like to get in touch with either one of us, you will find the information for that as well down below in the information section. And with that, I'd like to say, as a reminder, um, be the sage,
Be the seeker. Mm.
be transformed. Until
Yes.
next time.
Bye.